Hello everyone, welcome to IS Baba's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. This is day 40 and we take up the history and art and culture related topics. So friends, before going to that, so be ready for the tomorrow's guesswork. From tomorrow the guessworks will start. Come up with your own guessing strategies for the 2021 Prelims questions. So along with the 2021 Prelims, we take some of the questions of 2020 Prelims where the UPSC's answer key, so that was skewed and not as per our gut feeling. So we will have a brief pattern of tracking the UPSC examiner's brain. So we will have a good session over there. And now coming to the topics. So these are the topics we are going to discuss here. So first one, that is the theatre forms. Friends, here, what makes a theatre different from the dance, drama or any others? So here it is inclusive of the main elements of all those. Say for example, the six main elements in theatre is, one is the plot, that is in which sequence the skits that would be arranged, and then the characters. So the characters here will be chosen in such a way that the people can connect to the day-to-day affairs and their lives, and the thought process, even the concept on which the skits are made, so they will be connected to the ongoings of the society. And the diction, so the dialogues will be written in a very lucid manner, and it also contains some comedies, then rhythms and rhymes. And then the music, so even the music, so here the music will be not as classical and also not focal too much. So somewhere in between the music will be arranged, and this will give a very soothing effect to the local community especially. And then the spectacle. Spectacle here means it is the visual effects, the stage decoration, costumes, makeup and others. So all these will be very much appealing. And here some of the theatre forms, the sang. So it is found in Malwa region of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, and then Banpatar of Jammu Kashmir. Then Nautanki, we know that in UP, and Ras Leela, so famous in the areas of Mathura, Vrindavan and UP areas. Then Bawai, so the traditional theatre from Gujarat. And then Jatra belongs to West Bengal. Then Mak, so it is famous in Madhya Pradesh and originated from Rajasthan. So these are some of the important theatres. Then come to the next, the classical languages. So we know that we have six classical languages right now. One is the Tamil, then Sanskrit, then Kannada, then Telugu, then Malayalam and Odia. And what is the eligibility for a language to become a classical language? Friends, we know that recently Marathi and others, so they are competing to become a classical language. In that context, it becomes important. So here, high antiquity of its early texts or recorded history over a period of 1500 to 2000 years. So that means the language should have a very historical backup. And then a body of ancient literature or text which is considered a valuable heritage by the generations of speakers. Okay, so the current generation, they should say that the ancient texts and literatures are present and they are valuable as well. And then the literary tradition, so that will be original and not borrowed from any other speech community. So the original literature means the script as well as the language. Then the classical language and the literature being distinct from the modern. So there may also be a discontinuity between the classical language and its later form. So that means the language which was spoken in the ancient times or in the historical times, so that should be different compared to how it is spoken now. So the accents and the pronunciations, so if there is some difference in that, so that discontinuity, it is taken into consideration. So mark this word as important. And then come to next, what are the benefits of a classical language? So here, two major annual international awards for the scholars of eminence in the classical Indian languages. So this award will give the publicity and popularity to the language again. Then a center of excellence for studies in the classical languages is to be set up. So every classical language has its center of excellence to promote R&D in their languages. Then the University Grant Commission, so is requested to create or to start with, at least in the central universities, a certain number of professional chairs for the classical languages. So in every central universities, so there will be the chairs for classical languages. That is, there will be one HODs, the head of the departments for Tamil, then Kannada, and then Sanskrit. So likewise, so that this will become a hub for studying those languages. So these are the benefits. Then come to next, Medaram Jathara. So friends, here the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has sanctioned some 2.26 crore for Medaram Jathara. And this Medaram Jatra is the second largest fair of India after Kumbh Mela. and it is celebrated by the second largest tribal community of Telangana, that is the Koya tribes. So remember the Koya tribes, the second largest, and remember the festival itself, the second largest. So two times the second one. Then the Medaram Jathara is also known as Sammakkan Saralama Jathara. So here is how the fair is celebrated. That is Sammakkan Saralama. That is the mother-daughter duo. So their symbolical worship is made by making a mount of flowers. So likewise. And here we have the history of Sammakkan Saralama. It is a tribal festival honoring the fight of a mother and daughter, that is Sammakkan Saralama, with the reigning rulers against the unjust law. And it is celebrated in the state of Telangana. And the Jatra begins at Medaram in Tadvai Mandal in Warangal district. And Medaram is a remote place in Eturnagaram Wildlife Sanctuary, and it is a part of Dandakaranya. Friends, here Eturnagaram and Dandakaranya, it is one of the largest forest patches in that region. So we remember that as well. And then it is celebrated once in 2 years in the month of Maga on the full moon day. So mark these 2 years as important, because here it is something skewed where all fairs will be celebrated annually. It is only once in 2 years. Then come to next, Janjatiya Gaurava Divas. So the Union Cabinet has approved 15th November as Janjatiya Gaurava Divas to commemorate the brave tribal freedom fighters as part of year-long celebrations of 75 years of Indian independence. So here we need to remember the 15th November, the date, and also the Divas. And November 15 is the birthday of the great tribal warrior Birsa Munda. And Birsa Munda's history we all know, it is present in NCERT also. So hence it is better to remember. Birsa Munda was a folk hero who belonged to the Munda tribe, and he spearheaded a tribal religious millenarian movement that arose in the Bengal presidency. And his revolt was called Ulgulan, that is the great tumult, the great revolution. So here we need to remember three facts. One is the 15th November, then the Divas and Birsa Munda. Then come to next, the Putul Nautch or the Putola Nautch. So it is the string puppetry of Assam. And Putul is a word that describes both a doll and a puppet in Bengali. And the puppetry is performed in Lower Assam in the Majoli Island. So remember Majoli, one of the largest islands. And then the North Assam. And the puppetry includes the episodes of Ramayana as well as the scenes from Mahabharata. Not so important a fact. Then puppeteers also add dialogues or chants taken from Bhavana. So remember friends, Sattariya dance and Bhavana dances. So these are two important dances of Assam. So all puppetries or any other dances, so they take one or the other elements from these Sattariya and Bhavana dances. So this is about the Putola Nautch, the string puppetry. And we discuss other string puppetries. So here, India has a rich and ancient tradition of the string puppets, also known as the marionettes. And the puppets in this form have jointed limbs and controlled by strings, allowing for more flexibility. So here we have the strings, so they are controlling the limbs and other body movements. So the joints, so they will be flexible for movement. And then this greater ability to control makes them the most articulated of all puppets, but also the most challenging one. So here it is very difficult to work with. It needs dexterity, but at the same time, this is the most beautiful ones. And here we have some of the examples of string puppetry, that is the Kathputli of Rajasthan, and then Kundai of Odisha, and then Gombayata string puppetry of Karnataka, and Bommalatam of Tamil Nadu. Friends, again here, try to remember some of the keywords. So Gombe means doll, or Bommalu means doll. So Putli or Putli, again a doll. So here, if you catch the language properly, you will get some or the other hints to hit in the prelims exam. So give importance for the words, especially in art and culture and also in science and technology. Then come to next, leather puppetry. So they are made up of the cutout of leather and are flat in figures. And this leather puppetry is also a shadow puppetry as well. And the shadow puppets are pressed against the screen with a strong source of light behind it, and the manipulation between the light and the screen make the colorful shadows for the audience. So here we can see how the shadow puppetry is being done, and the dolls made of leather are used. That's why it is leather as well as shadow puppetry. But here we can see the shadow is not so profound, but the leather dolls themselves are the beautiful to look at. And then the examples of shadow puppet in India, that is the Togalu Gombayata. So Gombayata is same. Togalu means leather. That is why Togalu Gombayata. And then Tolu Bommalata of Andhra Pradesh. So Bommalata, Bommalu means doll and Tolu means leather again. Then Ravanachaya, Odisha. So Ravanachaya, Chaya means shadow and Ravanachaya, the shadow of Ravana. So likewise, give importance to the names of the words. Then the glove puppets. So these puppets resemble the limp dolls, but in hands of the skilled puppeteers, and they can perform a variety of motions with these. And two hands emerge from just below the neck, and the head is constructed of the paper match, linen or wood. So, friends, paper match, you might be knowing like we mix all the recycled papers and then we mix water with that. We prepare a paste, and that paste, so that will act like a clay. And from that clay, we can make any puppets of any kind of shape for that matter. And after that, we dry it. So, these dolls are made up of this paper mesh. And a long flowing skirt makes up the remainder of the body. So these puppets, they just have a head, two hands, and a long skirt. That's it. So these puppets are easy to make. And the manipulation technique is straightforward. The puppet's movements are controlled by the human hand. So here it is not as dexterous as it is to control the strings, but directly we can control with our fingers. And here we have some of the examples. That is Beni Putul. It is West Bengal's glove puppetry. So here we can see how after the neck and the face we have two hands, and after that there are no legs, only a skirt or only a long robe is left below. So this is the Bengal's Beni Putul. And then we have the Sqay Nautch. So here the Sqay Nautch is there, and here again we can see that the doll is made up of only the face and the hands, and the legs are not so visible here. So these are some of the glow puppets. And then come to next, the martial arts. So first one, Kalaripayattu. Kalaripayattu is a martial art which originated as a style in Kerala during 3rd century BC, and it extended till the 2nd century AD. And the word Kalari first appears in Sangam literature to describe the battlefield and the combat arena. And Kalaripayattu techniques include a combination of steps and postures, that is Chuvatu and Madivu. So remember Chuvatu and Madivu. And friends, here Kalaripayattu is basically originated from the nature. So how an animal defends itself, how an eagle attacks its prey, how a snake defends. So their defense and offensive techniques, so they are being studied and they are being implemented in Kalaripayattu. And then Gatka dance. Gatka is a traditional martial art associated with Sikh gurus, and this imbibes the sword and sticks and fighting skills and the self-control as well. And it is believed to have originated when the 6th Guru Hargobind he adopted Kirpan for the self-defense during the Mughal era. So here we can see how Gatka is played, and we can see how the swords and the shields, so they are being magnificently macheted. And then Mardanikhel. So this is taught at the very beginnings of the Vakataka kings, Chalukya kings, and Rashtrakuta empires. And the inhabitants of this hilly terrain, which is characterized by valleys and caverns, were adept riders who preferred light armor and extremely mobile cavalry troops. So here basically when we think of Mardanikhel, so that is the light armaments and the light weapons with utmost agility. So that is what the requirement. And the usage of distinctive Indian patta or the sword and vita is well known. So it is the Mardanikhel. So for example, this is how the costume goes. And here the Shivaji of Maratha kingdom was a well-known practitioner of this martial art. So we can remember Mardanikhel in the name of Shivaji as well. And then come to next, the Silambam. Silambam is an ancient weapon-based martial art that emerged in Tamilakam or in Tamil Nadu. And Silam stands for mountain and the bum stands for bamboo, and which is the main weapon used in the form of the martial art. So here we can see how the Silambam is played. So it is basically the practice with the stick. So how we move the stick, how we posture the stick. So all these is itself a martial art. Then Thang is a popular Manipuri martial art, also known as the Huyen Lalong or the Sarit Sarak. So here that Thang, that is the sword and the spear, or might be Huyen Lalong, that might mean the same in the Manipuri language, and the Sarit Sarak. So this is also somewhere around meaning the same, that is the sword and the spear. Then other weapons used are the shield and axe. So others are also used. So if UPSC gives a statement like Thangta martial art uses only the sword and the spear, so it is wrong. It also uses other weapons like the shield and axe. Then it is created by the Meitei people of Manipur. So remember the Manipuri martial art Thangta. Then come to next, the Sqay. Sqay is a Kashmiri martial art form of sword fighting, and it makes use of the curved single-edged sword paired with a shield or one sword in each hand. And we also have the Sqay which is unarmed. So unarmed techniques incorporated with the kicks, punches, and locks and chops. So they are also being practiced. So here we can see how in Kashmir the Sqay is being practiced, and along with the sword, so we can also use the sticks, and we can also use the legims and others. So friends, as and when the martial arts have been evolved, so more and more props and instruments, so they have been added. So be careful when UPSC asks extreme statements like only or all and others. And then come to next, Buddhist literature. So friends, here we discuss some books of Buddhism. First is the Sutta Pitaka. So it contains sutras related to Buddha and his close companions. And the Vinaya Pitaka. So here the subject matter of Vinaya Pitaka is the monastic rules for the monks and nuns. And this Vinaya Pitaka is divided into three books, that is Sutta Vibhanga, that is the basic code of monastic discipline, is known as the Patimokkha. So this Sutta Vibhanga that contains the very basic discipline. And then we have Kandaka. Kandaka is the second book of Vinaya Pitaka. And then the Parivara. Parivara is the last book of Vinaya Pitaka, and it covers the summary of analysis of the rules mentioned in the first two books. So this is the summarization of the first two. And then Abhidhamma Pitaka. So that deals with the philosophy and the doctrine of Buddhism. So mark this, it is also present in NCERT as well. Then Jatakas. So they contain the tales of the previous births of Buddha in the form of poems. So mark poems as important. And then Deepavamsha. So here Buddha's teachings and preachers in Sri Lanka is being depicted and explained. And Mahavamsha, it deals with the royal dynasties of not only Sri Lankan but also Hindu rulers. And then we have Mahavastu. So that deals with the miracles and earlier lives of Buddha. And then Mahavibhasa Shastra. So that deals not only with Buddhism but also Vaisheshika and Sankhya philosophies. So mainly it is a philosophical book. And then Lalita Vistara. So it is a Sanskrit text that deals with the biography of Buddha. So these are some of the books, and if time permits, we take up some more. And then come to next, the literatures of Jainism. So here, Lord Mahavir's preaching was compiled by his disciples known as Gandharas and the elder monks known as the Shrut Kevalis into many texts known as sutras. So these sutras, so they are the sacred texts of Jainism. And these sutras are collectively known as agamas or also agam sutras and the sacred books of Jain religion. And here, the Jain religion does not have one sacred book like the Bible or Quran, so they have many agam sutras. And the agam literature is also divided into two groups, that is the Anga Agam or the Agam Pravishta Agams or the Anga Bahya Agams. Anga Bahya Agam means one which is outside of Agam. Bahya means Bahar. So likewise. And then the Shvetambar sect has divided Anga Bahya Agams into the following categories. So I got some fact here. So first one, that is the Upanga Sutra. That is the scriptures which provide further explanation of Anga Agams are called Upanga Sutras. So just like we have the Vedas, Upavedas and Vedangas. So likewise here also there are categorizations. And then Ched Sutras. So these are only for ascetics and not for the lay people. And then Mula Sutras, the scriptures essential for the earlier stages of their monkhood. So ascetics, they use it as the very basic book in their very early stages. And then we have Chulika Sutras. So the scriptures which further enhance or decorate the meaning of Angagams are also known as Chulika Sutras. And then Prakirna Sutras, that is the independent or miscellaneous subjects of Jain religion. So these are some of the books. So again, if time permits, we take up more because friends, one question or two questions on Buddhism and Jainism. So that will be a must in UPSC. So as and when we track the trend of it. And then come to next, the Ghazal and Khayal. So Ghazal is mainly a poetic form than a musical form, but it is more song-like than Tumri. So that means it is more poetic than a music and it is more song-like than Tumri. So Tumri became mostly a paragraphic type and Ghazal comes somewhere in middle. And then on an average, Ghazals usually have some 7 shares, so sheris. And then even though Ghazal began with Amir Khusro in the North India, Deccan was its home in the early stages. And it developed in the courts of Golconda and Bijapur rulers. And most of the major Ghazal poets were the Sufi saints, and some of the examples were Rumi and Hafiz. So this is about Ghazal. Then come to next, the Khayal. Friends, before going to Khayal, we should also discuss Drupad. So Drupad and Khayal are the two forms of classical singing, and Drupad is certainly older one, and which took shape in the medieval era, replacing the ancient Prabandha. So Prabandha system, so that was the ancient music, and Drupada, so that replaced this Prabandha. Then the nature of Drupad music is spiritual. So as and when it is old, so the most of spiritualism, so that is remaining intact. So friends, as Drupad is an old school, so there the spiritualism was profound in the society, hence this music is mostly spiritual. Then it induces feelings of peace and spirituality in the listener. Then in medieval India, Drupad had thrived, but later it declined with the shift to the interest in Khayal. And Amir Khusro is credited with inventing this style, and Khayal composition is also known as Bandish. And it is more romantic than Drupad, which is spiritual. So Drupad is spiritual, but Khayal, it is romantic. So it is related to the current generation. So these are some of the facts regarding Ghazal and Khayal. Then come to next, the important tribes and their cultures. First one, the Darlong tribe. So it is a tribal community of around 11,000 people, and they reside in Tripura. So mark this as important. Then the community has a high prevalence of education and cultural activities. And friends, many Darlong tribes, so they have occupied good positions in bureaucracy, politics and others. And then Darlongs, despite being scheduled tribes, were never given the ST certificate because they were considered as a generic tribe under the Kuki communities. And tribal musicology and the rosam, that is the tribal instrument, are famous in this Darlong. And then Chakmas and Ajongs of Arunachal Pradesh are the migrants from Chittagong hill tracts of Bangladesh. So they are not indigenous, they are the migrant tribes. And displaced by the Kaptai Dam on the Karnapuli River in 1960s, they sought asylum in India. So this is how they came to India, and majority of them lived in Changlang district of the state today. So Changlang district of Arunachal Pradesh. Then Mizoram and Tripura have a sizable population of Buddhist Chakmas, while the Hindu Ajongs mostly inhabited in Garo hills of Meghalaya. So friends, mark very important thing, that is the Chakmas are Buddhists and the Hajongs are Hindus. So mark this as important ones, and mark Arunachal Pradesh and also Kaptai, then Karnapuli. So all these you can remember in the geography's perspective. Then come to next, the Thai Kamti. Thai Kamti rebellion is the first such war took place in 1839 between the Thai Kamti people and the British. And here Thai Kamtis resisted the colonization by British. And Thai Kamti people who follow Theravada Buddhism live in areas straddling around Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. So here remember Arunachal and Assam as important, and also most importantly Theravada Buddhism. So they are Theravadins. Then Bondas. So Bondas are Munda ethnic group who lived in the isolated hill regions of Malkangiri district in southwest Odisha. So Bondas are none other than a subset of Mundas. Then they are a scheduled tribe of India and are also known as the Remov, that is meaning people in the Bonda language. And the tribe is one of the oldest and most primitive in the mainland India, and their culture has changed little for more than 1,000 years. So they are the very pristine ones. So here we can see Thai Kamti people and also the Bondas. And then come to the next, the Kazi tribes. So here the matrilineal Meghalaya is said to break the tradition of share of parental property to the Katdu, which means the youngest daughter in Kazi language. So here we know that this Kazi tribe, it practices matrilineality. That means the property goes to the youngest daughter, that is the Katdu. But however now they are changing that tradition. And friends, here we need to know the matrilineality need not mean the matriarchy. So although the property will be in the name of daughter, so that doesn't mean she will take the crucial decisions inside the family. So again, here the male can dominate in taking the decisions, and only the property will be in their names. So mark the difference between the matrilineality and matriarchy. Then Munda Potakela. So here the community Munda Potakela is a denotified tribe and is left with a very few members. So that means we discussed about the denotified tribe, that is the neglected tribes, and they are also less in number. Then they have migrated to Odisha from Rayalaseema of Andhra Pradesh. So they are migrants to Odisha from Andhra Pradesh. And them being street performers, they travel from one village to another and perform shows like burying their heads in soil for several minutes. So friends, here we have the show of theirs. So they will bury their heads, and this is how with the form of various acts, circuses and others. So they will entertain the public and they will make a livelihood out of that. So these are some of the facts regarding the various tribes. So friends, whenever you study about the tribes, so go through their pictures. So try to understand their costumes. So try to have a picture memory of them. So that would enhance your retaining capacity. Then come to next, Tharu tribes. The community belongs to Terai lowland amid the Shivaliks of Himachal. So mainly they belong to the Himachal Uttarakhand region. And most of them are forest dwellers and some practiced agriculture as well. And the word Tharu is believed to be derived from Theravada Buddhism. So remember again, the Tharus are also Theravadins. Then Sarna religion of Jharkhand. So the followers of Sarna faith, so they will pray to the nature. So they don't pray to any god, but to the nature. So the holy grail of faith is the Jal, then Jungle and Zameen. So Jal, Jungle and Zameen. So this is present in one of the famous movies now. So this is taken up from the philosophy of Sarna tribes. And its followers pray to the trees and hills while believing in protecting the forest areas. And this is how they look at. So in the top, we have the Tarus, and here we have the Sarna tribes. So these are some of the facts regarding various tribes. Then come to next, the handicrafts. Friends, here we have some of the handicrafts in news. That is the Kashmir. We have the Namdar silk and then the walnut wood furniture. And then in Rajasthan, we have the Bandhani fabric. That is, they tie the fabric very thoroughly and then they dye it differently. And once if it is done, and once we untie the fabric, it looks magnificent. And then Andhra Pradesh. So here we have the Bidri work. Bidri work is also present in North Karnataka and also the Pochampad saris. And in Tamil Nadu, we have the bronze sculpture and also the Kanjivaram silk saris. And in Mysore, we have Mysore silk and the sandalwood items of Mysore. Then Kerala, we have the ivory carvings and the rosewood furniture. So remember friends, elephants are present mostly in Kerala. That is why the ivory carvings. And Kerala is present within a tropical evergreen forest. And that is why rosewood furniture. And also cross-check that with the walnut wood furniture of Kashmir. And then Assam, the cane furniture, because bamboos they grow very well in Assam. Then Bengal, Bankura terracotta. So coastal areas, so good amount of clay can be extracted. Then Banaras, brocade and silk saris. And Madhya Pradesh, Chanderi silk and Kosa silk. And Lucknow, Chikankari embroidery or Zardozi embroidery. Then Punjab, Fulkari embroideries. And then Bengal, Kanta embroidery. Orissa, Patola embroideries. So friends, here, whenever the tableaus of Republic Day comes, so all these are being depicted. So make sure that you remember and apply that and have a picture memory so that you will not make wrong in the prelims. So these are some of the topics. Then come to the last part. Friends, as we have seen even today, India is having a very rich and colorful culture and tradition. And we can say India is a shelterer of shelterers. India is a mother of mothers. India has given shelter even to the criminals. And she has given shelter even to the dreaded criminals like British. And now it is the time for all of us to rise up and spread the glory of Mother India, so that even these dreaded criminals, so they will get to understand that India gave the shelter and they are not the ones who exploited India, but they only misused the patience of it. So let's all move towards that direction. So all the very best. Good luck, friends.